Heyo, welcome everyone to Today in the Scene by Indie Arcade Wave. Here on In the Scene, we focus on what's happening in the arcade space, from new arcade developers, arcade owners, and just news in the space in general. This week, we're going to be focusing on world records. Now, I absolutely love the game Ice Cold Beer. I'm not great at it, but we have the world record holder with us. He's got all three of the world records, so let's just bring Roddy in. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How's it going?
It's great. I'm excited to chat and kind of figure out, this whole world record thing, why you wanted it, why you went after it, how it worked out, things of that nature. So I guess let's just jump right in. Like, who is Roddy? Why do you love arcade games, and why do you play Ice Cold Beer so much?
Cool. No, I think I got my first start, like my first introduction to, I guess, the arcade space. I grew up in Okinawa, Japan. My dad was in the military, and so I got to go off base and see like what the arcade world looks like at that in that kind of environment. And I won't say that it's kind of the pinnacle of the arcade world, but it's most definitely a very vast space in Japan. You've got a lot of initial D, you've got a lot of DDR, you've got a lot of your niche arcade games, and then um, you've got your pachinko type games. And so I think living there and being able to see like the variety of the different games that there are. I personally was a metal a metal slug guy as a kid, um, and a lot of Initial D, and a lot of House of the Dead. I think at the arcade that we had in Japan, um, we had it was called Type of the Dead, where instead of shooting, I guess different characters would come up for the zombies, and you'd have to type it in. And if you didn't type it in time, then of course you lose a life. So it was different kind of variations of it. So I think um, living there kind of gave me a different or another kind of perspective about like what could the arcade space look like. And then as far as Ice Cold Beer, I had a friend, his name Matthew. He had the 15-minute uh, speed one world record for Ice Cold Beer, and he said, "Hey, there's nobody that really plays it, and it's kind of necessarily competitive with him." He said, "Hey, I kind of he used to be my boss at a former job, and he said, he kind of had an idea as far as the way that my brain works, and he was like, hey, I want to have to play the game again, but the gap between him and whoever the next person was in his eyes was vast, and so um, me not being good at the game initially, when I expected to be like decent, like there's 10 holes, and I couldn't get to like three consistently, and it just irritated me, and so many tokens, many hours, fighting to get to 10. And eventually, once I got to 10, I guess I was able to see, outside of that, to be able to see that there's more, for lack of a better phrase, DLC to be played. Now you have to, opposed to just getting to the 10th hole, cool, let's see how fast you can get to it. And I guess the way that the game works, um, you can measure time, and time is important, but the way that the score is tracked, every 3 seconds you lose 10 points as you're trying to place the ball in the hole, and so there's always something else nudging you to be better. I think very similar to pinball, where it's never enough. The game is never over. There's always something else, and I think the idea of there's always something else is kind of what kind of caused me to gravitate towards the game, because there's you're trying to achieve mastery, but within that game there's really, you try to achieve perfection, but there's never really ever perfection. You can't, it's hard to capture perfection in 15 minutes or an hour, nonetheless, over the course of a over a marathon points world record run. Like it is impossible. So I think that's what kind of drew me to the game.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you get started on it. You're right. Once you hit hole 10, like the game kind of resets itself and you keep playing back up to 10. But like getting to hole 10 is the hardest part. I think I've gotten to like 6 or 7. I'm close. I'm like right on the edge there. Just
Right
gotta
there.
figure out the path to like 8, 9, and 10. and then I'll be able to keep playing. But yeah, I think that's cool that someone who already had the world record introduced you to it, kind of brought you into it, like, hey, check this out. And now you've surpassed him. You have all three world records. Obviously, like, it's probably not a crazy like mental setup to do a 15-minute run or an hour run. What was your
Mhm.
mental setup like to do a what was it, 33 hours or 34-hour
Yeah.
run to get this marathon score? Like,
Oh my
how
gosh.
did you prepare for that?
So I can touch on there's a mental place you have to get to for the 15-hour and the 1 hour. And I say that because as a as a as somebody who is, I'm not the owner of the machine. And so that game, it's 41 years old. And so you how well you do, regardless of how well you play, can be dictated by the ebbs and the flows of the machine, whether or not a switch in the back of the machine is tightened just ever so slightly. I think a couple weeks ago I was going for the 15-hour record or 15-minute record, and the ball was not registering for the life of me that, I guess in hole five our machine needed to have some maintenance to it, but just hadn't been done. And so um, I'd be on pace for world records on for the 15 minutes, and I would just never get it because, on the fourth loop that I have, the ball, oops, you didn't get it. But in terms of the points record, I think it with this particular instance, it was very hard, and it's not necessarily the run itself. What happened was, I guess we started on Sunday for this run. And I guess what's the day? Today's the 30 or today's the first. So we started on the our first attempt was on the 23rd of June, and we got 2 hours in, and we found that essentially the game hadn't been used, had not was not accustomed to somebody like me playing it, and it's not a flex or anything like that, but it's just the way how many times that machine gets to go to 10 it was very far and few between. So there were problems with the machine that they just never got the chance to experience and to fix. And so 2 hours into the run, we just kind of scrap the run, and we have to, we come back to it and we try again on Monday. Um, and the way that the rules are set up, it says that you aren't allowed to touch the, you're the only person that's allowed to touch the machine as the speed runner, in terms of maintenance as well. And so 16 hours in, um, some of the pulleys on the machine, they just kept malfunctioning. We kept having to tighten and tighten and tighten, and it was draining because I couldn't ever get into a flow. And like during the day, I'm a software developer, and so the idea of, all right, I'm trying to get into a flow for an hour, and somebody comes and interrupts me and has like a nuanced question. It's hard to get back into that flow. Nonetheless, you're doing this kind of speed run where you have to kind of just be in a place mentally, and then, all right, oh crap, the game isn't playing the way that I need it to play. Let me come around, and now I have to be repairman. And then we got 16 hours into that run, and um, machine kind of it broke down on us, and so we had to. It was at 4 a.m. during the run, and so myself and the arcade owner Jr. at Transmission Arcade, we called it a night. Went home. Um, I got back up probably 4 or 5 hours later. Um, took a trip to Ace Hardware, and we kind of got very meticulous with trying to make sure that we fixed the machine in its entirety the best that we could. And so we, at the end of the day, my friend Matt came down, and we started calling ourselves the Ferrari racing team because we were just having to make so many tune-ups and maintenance, do so much maintenance to the machine. Um, and so I went home, took some Z-Quil because it was a weird night. Slept for about 10, 12 hours. No, it was probably 11, 12 hours. And I get up ready to go. It's like 5:30 a.m. And I guess the arcade has they do food as well. And the managing chef of the arc the of the kitchen was like, yeah, I'll be here at 7. All right, cool. So I'm up and I'm ready to go. And where I'm staying at is about a 20-minute walk, maybe a mile distance from the arcade. And so like I'm pumped up. Uh, and I walk to the arcade. I get there, and I guess he had had a rough night um, or a rough day at work and just crashed. And so I sat there for about till like 7:15 or so. And I was like, these mosquitoes are just tearing me up. Like, I got to get out of here. So I Uber back to the house. I take like a quick hour and a half nap. And everybody's like, why didn't you just call us? We would have woke up and came. But I was like, I didn't want to be a bother because I'm already a guest here. Because my home arcade is in Tampa, Florida. Um, but just due to timing, it didn't work out. So I had to come here to do the run. But anyway, I get back to the arcade about 9:30, and then we start the run around 10 or so. And for the first 2 or 3 hours, like it's fingers crossed, please don't let the machine break, don't let the machine break. And you start trying to remember the check marks from different periods of times during the previous runs, trying to say, okay, we made it here. Not even in terms of score, just in terms of how the machine feels and how it plays. Because I think as the more that you play the game, the more that the pulleys become a little bit more dissonant. Like it's more out of control. And so sometimes if you torture yourself and you watch the whole run, you'll see the ball start to like um run, for lack of a better phrase, just out of control. And whenever it runs, in order to catch it from going in a hole, it's almost like you're doing like a very quick twitch horizontal chest press. And but it's one-handed. Usually it's going right to left. And so I'm trying to catch it, and I'm almost like it looks like it's just a chest press. And so I get to hour 21, 22, and like shoulders, chest, like I feel like I went to LA Fitness, like, and I've just been there, just locked in, just going like this, just like that. And so I think the other part of the run that was a killer was when it was time to when I was able to bank up enough time to be able to go and I took a 40-minute nap. And I guess the way that we did it was we wound up whenever the ball comes out of the machine, um, after you place it in the right hole or the wrong hole, you've got 89 seconds. And so we knew that, hey, you've got 89, whatever you need to do, pee poop, whatever, you got 89 seconds. But if I know if I'm at the machine and I can pull the bar down as far as it goes and put the ball on the left side, I know I have 2 minutes and 29 seconds. So we would joke and say, pull the bar down for poop, keep the ball there for pee, and just run out and go and fix it. And so we calculated that, hey, you could take an hour nap if you wanted to, but 40 minutes seems safe. So like we had an air mattress. The managing chef of the kitchen had brought an air mattress, and I'm just laying on it, trying to like steal minutes, and I'm hearing the ball drop into, oops, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and then hearing 99 bottles of beer on the wall, multiple times, knowing that, damn, I'm losing all these balls. And, they're precious, and I don't know where I'm going to be mentally when it is time to get up and how much room for error I'm going to have, or how much I know how much room for error I'm going to have, but rather how much how I'm going to be able to navigate with that room and if I'm going to be able to play through it. And once I got up, like I started to hallucinate. Like it was it was bad. And like I think there was nobody up. The arcade owner was there, but he was sleeping. I wasn't really trying to bother him, but like I felt like so alone. It was dark. It was like 4 a.m. I felt like I was in the abyss. And like I got to a point where like I felt like I was going to break, like mentally. It's just like I, there was no feedback. All I heard was 99 bottles of beer on the wall, and it's just like somebody saved me. And then I think it's like 6 a.m. and somebody pops up in the chat on Twitch, and it's like I almost like cried from like relief that like, oh, there's somebody here. Oh, like I feel like I've been in solitary confinement. Oh, somebody talk to me, please. So, oh, thank God that you're here. And so like once the sun came up and I was able to get people like talking to me, I kind of was able to center myself, and then be able to push through the run and kind of catch that second wind. So I think like the biggest things about the run was just getting the machine to cooperate after being, for lack of a better phrase, alive for the last 40 years, and then that trying to manage that period of time when you've been going for 23, 24 hours and trying to make sure that you stay the course, like what you're here for, you know what you need to do to get it done, but just kind of keeping yourself in that headspace. I think that's the biggest That was the biggest challenge with the points run.
Yeah, it seems way more like it's a mental battle than anything, just being able to be there and stay in that flow state because it's really easy to get pulled out of it. And you just needed someone to say something, anything
Yes.
that wasn't that song. And
Yeah.
it worked out in the end. It was pretty cool. I got to jump in there. I don't know, it was like probably like 11 or 12, like the morning of, like I think you were at like 20 some hours or whatever, chatted for a
Yeah.
second and then had to leave, came back, and you dropped the ball into hole 10, world record set, like right as I came home,
Right
which
on.
was super cool. So I got to catch like the very end of it, which was awesome. And now you hold all three records. So um, what was it like to set, the smaller ones, right? Like you set, this one was March 2024, the 1 hour, the 15 you set, what is this, June 2024. So these are all
Yeah.
pretty new scores. Um, what made you say like I've got the 30, I've got the 15, I need the top points record? Like why did you want to go for it?
I think just being a completionist, I think seeing the like you go on Twin Galaxies and you see, 15-minute, or I forget the order of it, but you see 15-minute, you see an hour, and then you see points, and it's like, why is it my name there? Not, I know why it's not there, but it's like I need to check the box. And so I told Matt, like, when I started playing, I said I'm going to get all three, and it was something where, initially it was like don't like we in our minds we feel like the 15-minute record is more of an indication of skill, just because you're trying to manage time and trying to cut seconds while playing as precisely as possible. And so um once you start playing that, you do that 15-minute run, you just there's so much micromanaging of the run, like within that 15 minutes that you're thinking about, along with the like I think when I do the hour runs, they are when I've broken those records, I've never really set out to do them. It's just like, hey, I had a really good 15-minute run. It may not have been world record pace, but it was a good 15 minutes. I'll push through. And so during the points record, I broke the I broke I broke the 15-minute and the hour record again. Um, I still need to go back and redo them just because I wasn't what I feel like was my best. But as terms of trying to get the points record, it was just like it was simply trying to check a box to say I could do all three, because I feel like you go on Wikipedia and you see the record that's recognized is the points record, and that's fair. And it wasn't necessarily for clout. Like I want my name in Wikipedia so I can say that I've got the record. It'll only be me. It was just I just know that's you know uh, publicly that's the gold standard of what the mastery of the game is, and so I felt like hey, I've mastered the game in my eyes, and so I should go out and try to get a record that exudes that shows that. So that was kind of the main motivation behind it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you got two, why not get three? Even though the first two are 15 or an hour investment, the third one is like a day and a half investment. But why not? Why not go for it, right?
Why
If
not?
you've got that competition between friends, you might as well. It just makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So if you're in the arcade and you're not playing ice cold beer, what games do you gravitate towards? Like, what are your top five in the arcade space?
Oh, so whenever I go, the my home arcade, it's called Lowry Parkade in Tampa, Florida. Um, I go in, and if I'm not obsessing about ice cold beer and I need a reset, I'm playing NBA Jam. I used to coach girls basketball, and so sometimes my players want to come to the parkade, and so they aren't old enough to know who the players are, but we go in and like, oh, coach, we can beat you, and I just I go in and smash them, and then uh, play Tapper. I'll go in and play Tapper, just like even if, especially if I'm having like a bad, like I'm not playing well and my mind's not in the right place for ice cold beer. Um, I'll go play Tapper. We've got a Marvel uh, Avengers in game, or I think it's just an Avengers pinball machine at our arcade. I like going to go play that, and then I'd say just good old Galaga, good old Galaga. Just just something to kind of keep the idea of having the hand-eye coordination, having to be mindful of the settings that you're in so that you can play as well. And I feel like I I try to make sure that when I play these games that aren't ice cold beer, I'm making sure that it is purely for fun. Because if it's something where there is more emotional investment into it, where I'm like, damn, like I should have done better, to the point where like I'm not enjoying it, it's becoming a competitive endeavor. Then it's something where it's like, all right, cool, add that to the list. Don't suck at Galaga, and then don't suck at Galaga turns into, all right, cool, let's go watch all the speed runs for Galaga. Great, and now we want to go beat the world record for it. And so I try to make sure I stay in a space where it's like, hey, this is for fun. This is to like relax. But when I play ice cold beer, I don't want to say it's not fun, but it is a business endeavor. It is most like, hey, we're here for a purpose. We've got the timer, we've got the notebook keeping track of everything. Like the little display that I had on the stream, I built that. Like it was like everything was like it's a business trip, for lack of a better phrase. And so I think whenever I play other games, I try to make sure tell myself, hey, this is for fun, only for fun. So
That makes perfect sense. I mean, you got to be able to get out of that serious mindset of like setting the world record and just actually enjoy the games because that's why we all started playing these games. And shout out Rob, like awesome dude, had him on the show
yeah,
before. Great arcade. It's on my list. I got to get down there. Haven't been to
great.
Tampa. I've been to Fort Lauderdale a few times and played at some of the arcades down there, but not
Gotcha.
Tampa. Um, yeah, I mean, you gave us the top five that you like playing at Lowry. Last piece, give a piece of advice to people that want to play ice cold beer that want to get to hole 10. Like, what would you say is like just a good snippet for people that either haven't played or are getting pretty close to being able to finish all 10?
I think once you get the whole is different for everybody else in terms of like where you start to feel confident. But I feel like in general, if I had to make a general rule, I think once you get to like hole four, you have all the movements and mechanisms in place to be able to get to the top. I think I wind up seeing a lot of people. It's all mental because it's like it's new territory. I have not been here. Um, and so you're kind of you wind up psyching yourself out. And I think like I would say even for newer people, but I think this might apply more so to people who play competitive. Um, we had my friend Matt, I keep talking about it. Um, they call it when we play at Lowry Parquet, we call it the Church of Ice Cold Beer, and so we shortened it to La Chiesa, so it's the church in Italian. But the tagline is "There is no path," and so um, we would say like, "Hey, like, guess there is a path that is most efficient to like for like speed running purposes and world record purposes, but ultimately, if you're trying to master the game, or yeah, I'd say even get to 10, I think you have to be you have to be comfortable and okay with accepting that there is no path. You have to just be able to play and kind of flow. And I think it just requires a lot of focus. Like I have to play with headphones in. So I think if you're somebody who gets easily distracted, you might have to bring your headphones in and just throw in 5 tokens, 5 credits and just lock in and try to, figure it out. And I think being okay with walking away from the machine and knowing that, hey, the progress that you see in the game, you might not um, you may not be able to see it tangibly as far as, hey, I went from 5 to 7, but you'll be able, if you're able to take a step back and kind of realize like, okay, cool, like the way that I path to the hole has improved, then I think it'll kind of keep you motivated because it's hard when you go into the arcade and it's like, all right, I'm on 5, stuck on 5, stuck on 5, stuck on 5. And I think that's why the game is so niche because it's the feedback loop for the player is it's very difficult, and I guess that's why people play when they're drunk because you can have your friends come around. It's just you can take turns, but if you're just in there by yourself, it can be a brutal exercise. So I would say those are you asked for one tip, I gave almost 7, but I would say those are the things I would suggest for people playing the game.
It's all good advice. I mean, I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna go and try and get better at ice cold beer because I think it's a fun game and I really enjoy playing it. And our partners that helped us make Food Fight Frenzy, they remade ice cold beer. So that's another place that I should be able to play their game right. If we're at a show, I just want to
Right,
get to 10.
right.
So that's the new goal. That's all I had for you, Roddy. Just shout out social media so people can follow along and catch you the next time you're streaming.
Cool. On YouTube, I am at not Roddy. On Instagram, I'm not Roddy underscore, and then on Twitch, I'm not Roddy. So if you wind up going to Instagram, you go not Roddy underscore. I have a link tree there, and it'll take you everywhere you need to go. But if you wind up taking a look at the any of the things that we do, I try to keep it concise so you guys you aren't bored when you're watching. But if you take a look, I appreciate you guys coming through the stream and watching, and I appreciate you, Joe, for having me on the podcast, man. Like I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I mean, you're a world record holder, so it's always fun to chat. And yeah, I'll put all that stuff down in the description so that people can check out your streams and your Instagram and everything. For anybody that's still watching, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us a ton. The way we'll continue to grow, and we can all ride it together. We've got Galactic Battleground, both cabinets available for sale. We've got the T-shirts for Indie Arcade Wave and Galactic Battleground, as well as Food Fight Frenzy is on the way. But until next time, peace.